How do you do? The Box Office Pulp board feels it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We're about to unfold a cinematic commentary track, made by a group of men who sought to create a podcast after their own ravings, without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with three great mysteries of the internet: analysis, observation, and deconstruction. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel you'd not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to... well, we've warned you. Now, to pause and refresh. For your convenience, we have an attractive refreshment stand in the lobby, with buttered popcorn, golden good and hot from the popper, your favorite candies, wholesome and rich, plus delicious Dr. Pepper, so bright and bracing with a tang and tingle unmatched by any other beverage. Enjoy an ice-cold Dr. Pepper at our beverage stand right now, and then return to fully appreciate this bop and a movie commentary track. Enjoy.
Meow.
Here's what I think we should do for our cold open.
Oh, for God's sake.
No, I think you might be on board for this one. We all get together and do a really shitty Danny Elfman impression of his score just for a couple seconds.
I told you guys he would do the Danny Elfman.
I was actually going to ask, like, for the opening, Cody, can you just do the score to Batman Returns?
I don't want to do the score for Batman Returns itself, but I'll do a generic Danny Elfman. Because in my mind, that's funnier.
You just do the score to Beetlejuice or something.
Yeah, well. But I'm not going to get any backup here. No one's going to do, like, the Angelic Choir. Someone's going to do, like, the...
Oh.
Boom, boom. Diddly, diddly.
It's actually pretty good.
I think my eardrums are bleeding.
Good.
We just need
we
to
do that for a minute or two, 5 hours, I don't know.
Record a second score.
We're going to just, make some music.
I hate this fucking podcast.
Good.
You know, the minute you've been broken, like, Cody wins.
Yes.
Cody broke me a long time ago.
I feed off your disappointment, Mike.
I'm just trying.
Sustains me.
Shut the fuck up, Cody.
Ever.
Oh. We thought we could be decent men.
No, we never thought we could be decent men.
Cody, stop weirding at my family. Now I am drinking this lemon juice and honey.
Ooh, that sounds delectable.
I put too much lemon juice in it.
Don't vomit. And if you are, do it on the show. We'll get ratings.
Also, Mike, are you dying? Like, you've had this affliction for quite some time.
Like a month, yeah. I might be dying.
Is it bonitis?
I think Regina has been, like, slowly poisoning you with, like, arsenic over the course of several months.
You joke, but that's entirely possible.
Let's say you have a soul, and I have a soul. My straw stretches across the room. I drain your soul, Mike. I drain it up.
Cody,
drainage, Mike. Drainage.
What? Cody, what the fuck are you talking about? Can we just start the goddamn show?
And thank you for that intro. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Box Office Pulp.
God damn it. God damn it. Don't you use me for one of your fucking ploys, man.
That worked really, really, really good. I can't believe that worked as good as it did. Awesome. Anyways,
Cody
folks,
is so happy.
I'm really glad you're all here to join us because today's a special day. We're going to be airing this in December, so just pretend it's Christmas, and that's why I'm saying special day. On a more meaningful note, we're covering a movie. Ooh, I get sound effects. We're covering a movie that is near and dear to all four of us. Tim Burton's Batman Returns. In my opinion, the greatest Christmas movie ever made. Better than Die Hard, better than Christmas Story, any of them. Batman Returns is the Christmas movie in my mind.
Here.
I mean, it does actually feature the true meaning of Christmas, which is drowning children and killing off Christopher Walken.
Oh, wait, I thought the true meaning of Christmas was Oswald means order.
It's true.
We'll get into that in a minute. But before we get too far, I've already forgotten the most important part of the show, introducing who the hell we are. Anyways, I'm your host, Cody.
Did you say I'm your coast?
I did, and I was going to try and run through that without getting called on it. But good job, Mike.
Hey.
I'm actually your host, Cody.
And I'm Mike.
Hold on, you fucked up my joke. All right.
Okay,
I'm going to
start
plow
over.
ahead like nothing happened. Nope. It's fine. We'll do it live. He's catnip to a host like me. Handsome, dazed, and to die for. It's James Lewis.
Hey.
Next up, mistletoe can be deadly if you eat it, but a Mike Napier can be even deadlier if he means it.
Does this mean we have to start fighting?
Yes. Well, we were before, but now we continue. Kill you later. And lastly, but not leastly, eat MB. High fiber.
Hey, stud. I thought we had something.
I just like that you go lower for Catwoman.
Well, now I'm disturbed. Wonderful.
Meow.
He did Batman voice for Catwoman. That was
Is
amazing.
he doing a Dr. Girlfriend?
Well, what's funny is that I'm like in my mind prepared. You're not the mayor, and then he threw that at me. I was like, Catwoman line, still in Batman mode.
Should have just went with meow.
Nah, baby.
I just like that's your version of Batman nearly crashing into the Joker in The Dark Knight. Oh.
Quiet or Papa spank.
Oh,
I like how quickly we've gone off the rails.
we got on the rails surprisingly fast, so it's only suiting that we completely ditched them so quickly.
But to be fair, this is the one movie where that kind of fits because Batman Returns is an insane movie.
Oh, it's fucking bananas. That's why I love it.
Yeah, that's pretty much why I love it too. It's
everything at once. My favorite kind of movie.
Of the Batman franchise, I feel like it is the most singularly unique film of all of them. And I'm talking about a film that features Batman and Robin. Like a franchise that features the Joel Schumacher films and then the 60s movie even. Like
I'm so amazed someone handed them money to make this thing, but it's great. I'm so glad it happened.
That's one thing you can always say about the Batman franchise. It has the most distinct entries of any modern series.
Yeah. But this one, I think, specifically stands on its own sort of pedestal where it's like, it is of its own product placement, and it's a sequel to another movie. It manages to straddle that line in a way that's really fascinating and really engaging, I think.
Yeah, Batman Returns is part of the holy trinity of movies for me. There's this, The Neverending Story, and Army of Darkness, which are the three movies that any time I watch them, no matter what I'm going through at the time, I'm immediately transported back to being 8 years old and just watching a movie like a child watches the movie.
This is actually, I think you've said it before, this is actually your favorite of the Batman movies, isn't it?
It's not my favorite Batman movie, but it's my favorite movie that has Batman in it.
Actually, that's really well said.
Fair enough.
It makes a lot of sense.
It's like favorite Batman movie would probably be Mask of the Phantasm, but this is like bar none. I mean, next to Big Fish, my favorite Tim Burton movie, one of my favorite movies of all time.
I thought you were going to say next to Big Fish, my favorite Batman movie.
Well, Batman's in Bigfoot Fish briefly.
The Penguin is. Well, you get to see his ass.
Oh, yeah.
We get to see his ass in this, too, to be fair.
We get to see his everything.
Just
Thanks, Danny
his
DeVito. Thanks.
dick egg.
Right, so, is everyone all set to go here? Are we ready to rock?
Ready to dick egg.
I'm paused right before the Warner Brothers logo.
All right, everyone, if you haven't listened to one of our commentaries before, here's the general layout. We've got the movie primed. We're all going to count down, start playing the movie. We're going to comment over top of the movie. You don't actually have to watch the movie if you don't want to. You could just listen to us. That's your life. I can't control what you do. Might improve your life, though, if you watch the movie with the commentary, but hey, whatever. So, James, can you do us the honor of counting us down?
1, 2, 3.
Oh, I love that 90s Warner Brothers logo.
Seeing that not on a VHS is really surreal for me.
Oh, that snow.
There's going to be a lot of points where I'm sure we'd want to talk about the score, but I just want to get this out of the way. When I got my first job, like the first thing I did with my first paycheck was drive to a Walmart and I bought a surround sound system and a copy of Batman Returns. And I went down to my basement and I set it all up. And I popped that DVD in and cranked the volume and just had Danny Elfman blaring at me, and it was the greatest thing ever to have that coming at like 5 speakers at a time.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite movie score of all time.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is bar. And, like, I actually am a way bigger fan of his original score for the 1989 movie, but this one, there's something about it that transcends the movie itself.
Oh, yeah, you can use it. Like, I put it on as background music when I'm reading books, and it always works perfect for whatever the book is.
Oh, yeah.
I can listen to the score while reading Batman comic books, and it still kind of fits.
Yeah, it's... Ooh, Danny Elfman, so good. People give him shit for his music kind of sounding similar, but I don't care. He gave us this one score, so he gets a free pass on everything.
Especially in this era, he was experimenting so much and doing so many different things. Like, he did this, he did Nightmare Before Christmas, he did, like, Beetlejuice and Darkman and Batman, and, like... He did so many variations on what were essentially the same sort of styles, but he made them all unique and really play with each other. It was very interesting to
I never understood
examine his career at that point.
I never really understood the criticism of Danny Elfman sucking because he sounds like Danny Elfman.
Yeah, if there like every score sound like Danny Elfman, I'd be maybe a little upset. But it's kind of like every composer kind of has his hooks and similar sounds, so who cares? That's just
listen to the Indiana Jones score, the Jaws score, and the Star Wars score back to back.
And the Superman theme.
Yeah, you can all tell they're by the same person.
I've never understood that weird modern hipstery thing of, I recognize something, therefore I hate it.
Moving away from the score for a second, I just want to, before it goes away, I want to talk about the setup that they have for the Penguin's origin in this, because a lot of the criticism leveled at Batman Returns, for the most part, is the idea that it's not, particularly faithful to the canon of the comic books, and it's not particularly this and that. It's not what a lot of people feel Batman is, and particularly with the characters like Penguin and Catwoman. This, for me, is honestly a way more interesting version of the Penguin, because this origin, right off the bat, starts you... I didn't mean the bat part as a pun, by the way. That was completely unintentional. The origin story starts off as a complete 100% contradiction of Bruce Wayne's origin story. Like,
oh, yeah. Bruce
Wayne's parents were murdered in front of him, and that drove his entire life. Oswald's parents completely abandoned him, and that builds his entire life. He's raised in the shadows. Like, Bruce has to utilize the shadows. Like, it has all these interesting parallels where the comic book Penguin just is a guy. Like, particularly back when this movie was made, there wasn't even, like, that whole aspect of him being this, legitimate businessman, this, purveyor of crime.
No, he was a jewel thief who had bird-themed crimes.
And umbrellas for some reason.
Yeah, and, like, even in his first appearance, like, in the comics, it was Detective Comics number 58 from 1941. It was a story called One of the Most Perfect Frame-Ups, and it's basically him buying his way into the mob by stealing, like, a map or something like that. And weirdly enough, that issue does have a lot of elements that play into this movie. Like, this movie actually adapts some stuff from the comics. Like, as I will go into throughout the commentary, like, some stuff actually is fairly faithful to the comics. But this version of Penguin had so much depth and thought put into it that is kind of astonishing when you think about it, because Penguin was such a non-character when they touched it, like when they actually went to develop this version, that it's kind of amazing how this version gets overlooked as time went on. Like people just don't regard this as a great version of the Penguin. I think it's a little unwarranted, honestly.
No, totally unwarranted. Danny DeVito really knocks us out of the park, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He makes us such a memorable villain.
And imagine the fact that even beyond the origin, throughout the entire movie, they do such a great job of establishing the Penguin as reverse Batman. I mean, from the idea that Batman is good, but eventually, is already sort of feared and is just flat out villainized by the third act of the movie, whereas, the Penguin is very clearly monstrous and horrible and evil, but is treated with respect.
Yeah, and also, I think what's kind of interesting about Penguin's character in this is that he's trying desperately to become Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne wants nothing to do with that kind of lifestyle. Like, he's shunned that because he wants to be a vigilante, whereas Penguin is trying to be accepted by society, even though later on, he goes mad and rejects society because it's rejected him like twice. But it's interesting to see it in regards to Batman's character, because it is very much in the same way that all the great Gotham characters are. It is set up to be such an amazing, starkly mirror image version of Batman and what he would have become had events in his life gone just a little bit differently.
Just want to stop for a second and comment on just the absolutely stunning sets.
Oh, God.
God damn, Gotham. God damn. And the snow, just to give that extra layering, the extra motion in there to really bring it all alive. Holy cow. It doesn't matter that this looks like something on a soundstage, because it's something you wouldn't see in any other movie. The timelessness of it, like, you don't know what fucking decade this happens, but it's just brilliant, and it's so captivating. I love looking at this movie.
Yeah, and it's so different from Anton Furst's version of Gotham City, even though this is a sequel to the 89 Batman.
Technically.
It's still, technically, but it still manages to evoke some of the Gothic, architecture and some of the Gothic necessities that would be of a Gotham City. But at the same time, it's distinctly very much its own thing.
It's much more, I always felt like I always trying to describe the differences visually between Batman 89 and this film is this film feels very much more, it feels more widescreen.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it feels so much bigger and livelier. Even though the streets and all that look more enclosed than they did in Batman 89. It's just, it's just more vibrant and more full.
Well, for one thing, the architecture is a lot cleaner than it was in Batman 89. Like, 89 really focused on the grimier part of Gotham. This is more like the business industry version of Gotham, where everything has been shined up and is crisp and clear, but is still off kilter.
89 was industrial. This tones that down a lot.
Well, that's something that the designer for this movie specifically set out to do. He said that first vision of Gotham City, as dark and grimy as it was, in many ways fetishized and had a kind of a nostalgic look towards the old world and old architecture and things like that. He set out more to make Gotham City oppressive. That was his idea of a continuation of the aesthetics for the first movie. The first movie was Gotham City working. Batman Returns is Gotham City absolutely crumbling down onto the citizens and closing them in. You get to Selena Kyle's apartment, and it's intentionally designed to be as tight and narrow as possible. There's literally a giant steel beam jutting through half of the apartment for no reason.
She doesn't even have room for a bed. She has to pull the bed out of the wall.
Well, that kind of fits into what the original aesthetic of the movie was going to be, which is in Sam Hamm's original script for Batman 2, as it was called back then, there was a big plot point of Gotham, there being this massive conspiracy behind Gotham's wealthy and privileged, where they were trying to hunt for this sort of a fortune that had been stolen from their ancestors, and the Penguin and Catwoman were actually after this fortune. And it was like this weird, like, B-side plot, but you kind of
Batman
see
2, Curly's Gold.
Kinda, but, like, you kind of see, like, the element of the upper class versus the lower class in the design work, because everything is sort of like, this is for them, this is not for you type of thing. Like, everything, like, there's these big, statues and all that. And
Now look at the Atlas Shrugged statues in the background.
Well, going off of the class inequity, God, that'd be such a weird place to take Batman for the fact that Batman is a billionaire. He lives in a mansion by himself with a butler. Like, he is definitely a representation of the upper class. So it's a weird idea to ever think, like, we should do a Batman movie where it's about how evil rich people are.
Dark Knight.
Yes. And yet they keep coming back to it. But I mean,
Well, it's
this movie does provide a good balance, though, because we've got Catwoman, who's definitely not a member of the upper class and definitely oppressed by the upper class, just as the
Penguin
secretary to
is
Shrek.
Well, Penguin is definitely impressed by them too, but in a much more direct way, where he was literally, thrown out of that kind of society.
Well, and the way he addresses himself and acts, he's kind of faux new class too. So that's, they do interesting things in the movie, kind of examining it and less so condemning it.
Yeah, he's kind of a perversion of that, but intentionally so, to where you feel like he's trying to do that because he really wants to be as perverted with it as possible. And by the way, as we're coming onto the scene, I just want to bring up the fact that the Penguin's giant red and green Christmas present trap from this scene is actually a direct nod to one of the earliest Penguin stories called The Penguin Goes A-Hunting. I'm not making this up. Batman number 17. The Penguin delivers a giant bomb to a would-be victim by using a red and green Christmas present. And it's gigantic. Like, seriously, like, people do not think of this movie as being comic accurate, but there were actually a lot of nods to the comics that even I didn't know about until, like, doing some digging. But yeah, this legitimately was a part of a comic.
And if things weren't crazy enough before with Pee Wee Herman dumping his lobster-like baby into a river to be adopted by penguins, we now have circus folk who have popped out of a present and are disrupting a rally.
No, not the Red Triangle Circus Gang.
Red Triangle / Red Circus Gang.
Whatever they were at the time. Oh, there's a Gatling gun inside that box, because why not?
What I love about the Sam Hamm script, which is the only 3 things they took from that script were, it takes place during Christmas, Catwoman and the Penguin are the villains, and Batman battles a Christmas-themed gang at some point. Like, this is pretty much the opening of Hamm's Batman 2, except their ringleader is a Santa Claus with a machine gun, which I would have killed to have seen.
By the way,
you off here. Yeah, this is such an important scene, just Bruce Wayne brooding in his mansion, like, doesn't exist until the Batlight comes on.
Well, what's interesting is that is Tim Burton has talked a lot about in the past how Dark Knight Returns is actually a big influence on his version of Batman, because it had only been released a couple of years before the original Batman came out in theaters. And then we're going into this one. That scene of Bruce is essentially an extension of the scene of him in The Dark Knight Returns coming back and getting back into the role. Like, it's him in his study just waiting there brooding. And then a bat, quote unquote, comes into his study and brings life back into him. So it's kind of like a weird, I've always taken that as kind of a nod to that. And also the first appearance of, like, his origin story where he's in the study thinking, like, what can I use to strike terror in criminals? Like, I've always thought it was kind of a dual nod to that in a way, because it's that same shot of him just being in the chair, just waiting for something to happen.
I wanted to counterbalance that insightful commentary with the random factoid that the man who punched the mayor in the face, Doug Jones. He's everywhere.
Doug Jones.
Can I say I've always loved how Batman had a gadget specifically designed to take out people with stilts.
And
Gotta break some kneecaps
every week.
And skeleton men on bikes.
I do love how he takes out half of this game without ever getting out of the Batmobile.
That's what made Michael Keaton's Batman so amazing, is that he had to do so very little and accomplished a lot.
Well, that's what I love about the Burton movies is the very simple fact that Keaton cannot fucking move in that costume. So they had to be really creative, and that just ended up with Batman being this god who can just take out an entire gang without barely lifting a finger.
Oh, and
It's a limitation that actually worked to the movie's benefit.
by the way, here's Batman's first murder.
Not his last.
God, I can understand why parents complain about this movie being too dark. We've got a child being abandoned, thrown into a river. Batman incinerates a man to death, puts a bomb on another person. Catwoman's knocked out of a several-story building. The villain's plot is to murder all the firstborn children in Gotham.
There's the naked sexual charisma.
You know, as much as I complain a lot about people taking films too seriously or being an uproar and all that, I will say, in Batman Returns' case, totally warranted. Because McDonald's
took a
had
mega blockbuster and just made it dark.
Yeah, McDonald's had a toy deal with this company. Like, they were going out of their way to advertise, this is the Batman sequel, and it's this.
The thing, McDonald's is why Burton was walked off the Batman franchise.
Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah.
McDonald's controlled all. That's how we got Batman Forever.
Well, the box office for Batman Returns wasn't quite as high as Batman, was it?
It was good, but it didn't do Batman numbers because, to be fair, no other film did Batman numbers. That movie was freaking huge. It was the biggest movie of 1989.
It's still such a weird thing to think that they let this follow that movie up. Like, I understand the first one was a huge success, but you think they put some sort of watch on the script so we don't end up with such a strange follow-up?
It is.
I'm so glad this is how this turned out. I really feel like it would never happen 99 out of 100 times. Like, this would never be allowed to happen.
Such an anti-studio film. Also, where are you going, Batman?
I love how just ready to get the hell away from Commissioner Gordon. If I don't look at him, he won't see me.
Well, the funny thing, like, going back to the idea of, like, if they had more control over the script and all that, like, the reason this movie exists is because the first one was such a huge mega success that Warner Brothers were terrified of letting Burton go because he had made the first one and it had made them a lot of money. So they really wanted to convince Tim Burton to do this movie, but there was a small problem. Tim Burton didn't actually want to do another Batman movie because he felt like he said everything that he really wanted to say on the character with the first movie. So the way they did it was, well, okay, what if instead of a Batman movie, we're just throwing this out there, what if instead of a Batman movie, you can just make a Tim Burton movie with the Batman characters? And then he started to think about it.
Back up just a little bit. That not even tracking shot, but the miniature shot through the zoo. God damn, that is beautiful. And that's something I really miss from old Burton, because you get that stuff in Beetlejuice, you get in Batman. Like the little pen camera shots where you just swoop through a miniature and make it look large as life. They're so cool looking. I love them so much.
Roller coaster ride through imagination.
I just want to say as an addendum to that story, to placate Burton, they threw out the Sam Hamm script, which is just a direct sequel to the original that was going to have Vicky Vale and all these tie-ins to the first Batman movie.
Was there
didn't
Knox?
have Knox.
Oh, damn it, why?
But they threw out that script and hired Daniel Waters to do his version of Batman Returns. Daniel Waters did not want to do a Batman movie either.
Well, what's funny is that, and I didn't even learn this until today, but Daniel Waters' original script for this was actually considered to be pretty terrible.
Oh, I was going to bring that up. I was reading that earlier today.
Yeah, Daniel
You can read the first draft of Daniel Waters' Batman. It is bananas.
Like, it is an insane self-parody, almost, of the Batman franchise. Like, Batman is essentially going around doing Dirty Harry quips. while he
Oh.
kills villains in extraordinary ways.
And the Penguin is just written as the Joker. Like, he just says Joker things constantly. Like, the Penguin does not fucking shut up in that script. Like, half of the script is one long Penguin monologue.
And Batman himself gets a lot of extensive monologues to the point where Michael Keaton actually had to come in and say, look, I want to cut down this line and this line and this line and this line, to the point where he would minimize his own dialogue to the bare minimum.
And the fucked up thing is, you look at that first draft, and plot-wise, it is almost scene per scene this movie. The conversations are the same conversations they have in the movie. It's just the dialogue is completely put through a blender. It's surreal as hell.
Well, the movie was actually, by and large, in terms of dialogue, in terms of like all the sane stuff that didn't get through Daniel Waters' version, was done by Wesley Strick, who...
Yeah, I just found that out earlier today when I was comparing the two screenplays.
Yeah, and he was brought in to polish the script, and later on actually went on to do the next Tim Burton movie done by Warner Brothers, which was, ironically enough, Superman Lives. Like, he was the guy that Burton brought in after Kevin Smith had already done his draft of that movie. So Wesley Strick essentially got an uncredited rewrite for this movie and then was asked to do Superman Lives. So that dude has had a weird career.
And then he wrote a Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
He did?
Yeah, he wrote... Yeah, seriously, look up his IMDb page. It's like, this, Cape Fear, A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, he did the Scorsese Cape Fear. And what's weird is that he had a lot of gigs in the early 90s doing just uncredited script polishes, which is what really led to this kind of... I honestly don't know the reason Daniel Waters gets sole credit for this. I mean, there's a story credit where it's Daniel Waters and Sam Hamm, but Waters gets credit entirely for the screenplay, which is so strange because, again, his version was just kind of terrible, honestly.
It's what happens whenever you get a dude who just wants to do independent comedies and tell him his career rides on him writing a Batman movie, and then he craps out a screenplay in a couple of weeks.
By the way, I just want to mention this is something I found fascinating about the character Max Schreck, which is, once again, a big, huge criticism of Batman Returns is that it's not true enough to the comics. It's this whole, complete diversion of the canon and what was established in the comics leading up to this. Max Schreck, his initial plan and characterization is a carbon copy of Rupert Thorne.
Pretty much.
And let me go into detail, just a couple little details. The first time we see Thorne in a story from Detective Comics number 469, he's in a meeting with some city councilman negotiating tax incentives to facilitate the construction of a new power plant. In both stories, the power plant meets serious opposition. Thorne actually gets his power plant. Schreck doesn't. However, the parallels become more apparent as Thorne's appearances go on, because his second big story, Strange Apparitions, actually has a character he has wronged seemingly killed and then return from the dead and out for revenge to get him. Instead of Catwoman, it's Hugo Strange, but essentially it plays beat for beat.
Hugo Strange kisses him under the mistletoe with a snapper.
Hugo Strange would.
Oh, about to kiss Santa Claus.
Why is he mad?
Because it's mad.
But interestingly enough, the third Thorne story from Detective Comics 511 involves him literally doing the Schreck thing of manipulating events in Gotham in order to establish a corrupt Hamilton Hill as mayor of Gotham City, then framing Batman for crimes he didn't commit in order to turn public opinion against him, and then utilizing something of Batman's to establish motive, which instead of a batarang, it's a glove, a replica of Batman's glove. But it's like so many things were taken from the Rupert Thorne character to build up this seemingly original character of Christopher Walken in this movie. It's so weird when you think about it, because Walken's character also was supposed to be Harvey Dent in an early draft.
Really?
Yeah, Harvey Dent, like, that's the reason at the end he's burned, because that was supposed to set up Two-Face, but instead, because of Shrek, he just ends up being killed.
That is bonkers.
Yeah, it's very, very strange. I don't know the exact reasons for, I think mainly because Burton wanted to work with Walken so bad and he didn't want to recast Billy D. Williams, so he just made an entirely new character who literally was just Rupert Thorne.
See, I'm learning all sorts of stuff, because I didn't even know Rupert Thorne was a comic character. I just assumed he was from the animated series.
No, he was like a big Steve Englehart character, like way back in the late 70s, early 80s Batman.
What I like about the decision to cast Christopher Walken was that initially Burton had to be talked into it because Christopher Walken scared the living hell out of him. Oh, no, I don't want to work with him.
To be fair, look at him.
Especially in this particular scene with the lighting. He is terrifying. And the closer they get to the window, the more afraid I am.
I talk about the lighting on Selina's face, my favorite in this film.
Which was an accident. That just happened while they were setting up the lights.
But yeah, it very clearly looks like a mask.
So damn cool.
I always feel like she looks like Michael Keaton in the scene.
Kind of does. Michael Keaton is that beautiful.
Oh.
Good question. Was there any version of the... Because I've never read the original draft. So in every version of the script, the original Waters draft, I should say, was Shrek's plan always to steal electricity from Gotham City for no particular reason?
In the first draft, yes, but Shrek is in the first draft. I haven't read it all the way through. I skimmed through it, but from all the scenes I saw, Shrek was pretty much the main villain of the movie. Shrek is arch as a motherfucker in the Water script. That's like the one great thing that carries through in that really weird first draft. Like there's an entire visual motif where, for no particular reason, Shrek is always holding a music box that does not play music. And sometimes he will open it up and just start jamming things in there and like start breaking it little pieces at a time. And there'll be there was a little dancing ballerina he'd stick pins through.
Why?
Which leads to this monologue from the third act of the movie, which I will now read.
Yes, please,
because
go
it's
ahead.
important.
By the way, I just love the fact that you're doing this as he murders Selina.
Also, I just want to point out...
What the fuck? Pretty much. Just my thoughts on the scene. That's all I had to say.
It's always so quick, but I just want to point out, Selina is not supposed to die from the fall in this. And no one seems to fully grasp that.
Nah, she was not magically resurrected by cats.
That's how I always took it.
Well, that was a misconception I had for the longest time. But yeah, the whole thing is actually, weirdly enough, this is a reference to another comic, Catwoman, Her Sister's Keeper, which starts off the exact same way, except she's in the rain. Like, she's unconscious, bleeding in an alleyway, and cats come up and revive her. And then that's kind of what sets her on her path to become Catwoman, because it was kind of the post-crisis version of redoing her origin story, expanding off of year one. And there's also another reference to it later in the film where Catwoman, in her first appearance, slashes a dude's face up with her claws. Like, that's taken directly from the comic, too. So, like, once again, this film is chock full of comic book references.
Interesting.
All right, so I just want to read this real quick because it's important. Last month, I brought this music box. but it would not play music. Now I could have taken it back to the store, taken it to a repairman. Could have put the company out of business. Satisfying. This box needed to be punished. Tortured. I mangled it with tools and wires. Lined its gears with acid. At times, I can hear it scream. The only way to fight the pain of society is to become it. Like nature itself, I don't allow anyone to get away with anything. Not even this barely inanimate object. I don't just run Gotham City. I'm its twisted soul. And Batman and Alfred are listening from the Batcave, and Alfred says, "My God."
How did they cut that?
That should have been filmed.
That was the most arch thing I've ever heard.
And now, for one of the just greatest freakouts on film.
Greatest.
Oh,
The greatest hissy fit in movie history.
okay.
Stuffing the stuffed animals down the blender, breaking the neon sign.
Suck monkey, no!
This is the perfect time to talk about the fact that of all the I'm not talking about gender specific here. I'm talking about performances in general. Michelle Pfeiffer gives one of the top 5 comic book movie performances of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah. Michelle Pfeiffer is Catwoman. I mean,
she is. She goes beyond being Catwoman. She gives an Oscar-worthy performance for this movie. It's kind of amazing. It is like I have never seen an actress go balls out for a role like this.
Like, I don't want to slight anyone in the cast. I think the entire cast does not get enough credit for this movie.
Great. The entire cast is amazing, but this particular performance,
it's golden.
Like, I don't know how someone dedicates themselves to acting this insane, but she does it with so, finesse, and she does it so effortlessly. I could gush on and on about it. It's like
especially
one of my
considering the fact that she was vacuum sealed into a costume she could barely move in.
Oh yeah, especially considering again this is more of a fabrication of, the idea of Burton's characterization of Catwoman, which is more of an extension of the idea of what insanity will do to a person and how it connects kind of to the animal totem. Like it's more or less. It's very much not of the Catwoman mold, but it is in a way. In that way, like Michelle Pfeiffer almost invents her own version, and it works. It works amazingly well.
Well, I have always maintained that this version of Catwoman is a perfectly valid interpretation of the character. It's a bit out there, and it doesn't really tie that much into continuity. But the thing that's always defined virtually every interpretation of Selina Kyle is the idea of liberation from some kind of man-made
opposing force. Yeah.
And first, this version of Selina Kyle, it's not, being a prostitute or in the 50s version, a stewardess. Like, it's very much, it goes to something a bit more old world, which plays again into the idea of this movie taking the old world fetishism that we kind of saw in the first movie and showing the crumbling away of that. Like, Batman 89 was so out of time and set in this society that is still supposed to kind of sort of be present day, but is very clearly still stuck in the old ways and not getting on with the times. So it makes perfect sense that the natural follow-up to that is somebody like Selina trying to basically being strangled by that world. Like, that's why she just becomes this almost parody of old world femininity.
And what's interesting too is that the basic, like, one-note description of Catwoman as a character concept is that she's the ultimate femme fatale. I've always taken this version to be the extreme of that, which is if the femme fatale character was way more blatantly insane, as opposed to just having it hinted at, to where it's not that she's just a thrill seeker, it's that she wants to kill everything. Like, this character is completely cut loose, and I feel like that's kind of what the point of this version was, whereas it's more of an extrapolation of the idea of Catwoman as opposed to, like, just being a carbon copy. You know, she's a thief, she's, has this on-again, off-again relationship with Batman where she's constantly tantalizing and teasing him and all that. This one is more of just, she's out for revenge. She's very clearly just a character who makes no bones about it. She is out there with a vendetta. And it's definitely a darker interpretation of Catwoman.
Well, I always take issue with whenever this version is written off as, Burton's idea of Catwoman is she's just crazy. Like, there's no complexity to that. But there's actually so much complexity to the way Selina is portrayed in here.
Oh,
I
yeah.
would take this version of Catwoman any day over the version we get in Dark Knight Rises. Like, to me, that character doesn't have much going on, but this version, all sorts of shit's happening.
Oh, yeah. Well, they didn't even really give her that much to do in Rises, as opposed to this, where she gets a third of the movie, as opposed to, maybe 30 minutes of screen time that Hathaway got?
I feel like in Batman Returns, Catwoman is, you kind of look at like a Mad Max Fury Road type thing. She drives a lot of the movie. Batman
This is the
has a ton of the movie where he's not even around.
It's the Penguin / Catwoman movie, and Batman is actually kind of on the third part of the totem pole. Yeah, going back to what you mentioned earlier, like, again, tying this to the comics, Catwoman's origin originally in the comics was that she was an in-flight stewardess who hit her head too hard and suffered from amnesia and decided to become a criminal.
Because why not?
And then Batman kissed her and she died.
Yeah, and also, like, the 9 lives thing, which is hinted at later on in the film, which, by the way, she gets shot at point-blank range. Could have easily died, like, within seconds after that happened, so I don't think that's plausible, but the whole 9 lives motif was actually a thing from the early comics as well, and that was, weirdly enough, I'm about to stick up for Bob Kane, and it feels weird. But Bob Kane actually did come up with the idea of Selina going from being this normal jewel thief to actually being a Catwoman, because she figured Catwoman was actually intentionally written to be the first recurring Batman villain. Joker even wasn't considered that until an editor said something. But Catwoman was going to be the first one that had a recurring role in the comics, so Kane, in a very, like, Stan Lee moment, just said to himself, well, a cat has 9 lives, so I figured whenever she was caught or wounded, she would have, she would survive and live again for another go-around with Batman. So this film actually has a lot more in common with the original Catwoman than I think people give it credit.
Well, I always find the most interesting interpretations of long-standing characters come whenever people don't get caught up in trying to please everybody and just kind of pick and choose the parts of the mythology that speaks to them personally and make something new out of it.
Well, that was what worked about Burton's attempts to do Batman in the first movie, where a lot of it was based on, like, people would comment on this a lot, where the version of Bruce Wayne that Michael Keaton was playing was essentially Tim Burton's personality. in a weird way. Like he was very much an introverted dude who just kind of was awkward and shy around people. And that's kind of what spoke to him about the Batman character, is that he was such an introverted guy who had a lot going on behind the scenes. So he felt kind of an artistic kind of connection to the character, where you can kind of see it on film too, where he kind of gives such loving attention to the idea that Batman is such a introverted character and such a character who operates in the shadows.
Speaking of, has this scene always been the saddest thing in the world to you? Just Batman driving around an empty Gotham with nothing to do.
One thing I never got, and I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, for years I never realized Penguin was in the Hall of Records so we could get the names of all the firstborn children in Gotham. Like, as a kid, I just assumed he was actually looking for his parents. I never made all the connections.
I like how you took Penguin at face value.
I did. Like, I need to be handheld by Burton to say, like, no, he's evil. He's actually doing bad things all the time.
Well, I had a similar relationship with this movie where every time I would watch it growing up, I would catch on to something new about the plot that I never noticed before, because the plot is so goddamn complicated. Like, I didn't realize that the Penguin was, like, part of any kind of circus gang until, like, I was watching it at age 9. Because this was one of those movies that was, like, I owned the VHS at birth, pretty much.
Oh yeah, same here.
Yep.
I burned out my original copy and had to get a replacement copy. Like, I didn't even do that with the first movie, even though I watched that one more. For some reason, Batman Returns just ended up being the movie that I always broke.
It was all that black sludge.
Batman Returns even more so than 89. It's like, when you were a kid, it was like watching another world. Like you're looking through into another dimension.
Oh yeah, this was my introduction, I would say, to actual Tim Burton. Like, the first film does such a good job of being its own thing and not really beholden to a particular directorial style. This one is so Tim Burton, it hurts.
Oh, this is the most Burton movie that's ever been. It's more Burton than Beetlejuice.
I.e. the speech happening right now.
God, I miss old Burton.
You can always come back. I've got high hopes for Miss Peregrine.
By the way, on a less serious note, Mike and I have had this running joke for over a decade now that this reporter character, who's not really named, is actually the brother of Alexander Knox, named Fox Knox.
On the original script, wasn't he, like, supposed to be, like, Knox's cameo or something?
I think so, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
definitely in Sam Hamm's version, like, Knox played a part, but...
Oh, yeah,
No,
Robert
Knox
Bull
and
had
Vicky
other things
ran
to do.
off into the distance with each other.
What's funny is that Wool commented on it and said he would have loved to be in the sequel.
Oh, that's sad.
I like to think Knox, Vale, and Harvey Dent are just somewhere else right now. Like they all ran away together.
The three of them are getting into shenanigans in the Metropolis.
Well, Batman Forever clearly established that Batman kills all of his girlfriends and locks them in a closet.
Yeah, I had a shocking revelation a little while ago. This is completely unrelated to the movie we're watching, but the line that Alfred says in Batman Forever about the china cabinet leading to a closet full of Master Wayne's dead wives is actually a reference to the fairy tale of Bluebeard, about a rich baron who marries an orphan girl and moves her away to his vast mansion and tells her she can enter any room except his secret basement lair. And then whenever she does, it's filled with the bodies of his dead wives hanging from hooks, which, let's face it, are the Robin costumes.
Yeah. So Catwoman's introduction there is the greatest character introduction in the history of film.
Once again, a reference to a completely unrelated Catwoman comic.
Okay, I've been fascinated by this. What the hell is Bruce Wayne doing?
He's being Bruce Wayne. He is billionaire for hire.
Like, it's always fascinated me to see Keaton's Bruce Wayne conducting business.
With his briefcase full of crackers.
That's still one of the things that I love about the Burton films to this day, is the idea that there is no Wayne Enterprises. Like, there's no company name attached to Bruce. He's just Bruce Wayne.
But I love how Shrek has to go through Bruce for his plan.
Like, I've always imagined, because there's a scene in the 1989 Batman where it's Harvey Dent's inaugural speech, and there's a spot next to Commissioner Gordon that is labeled Bruce Wayne, because it's supposed to signify that he wasn't there because he was out being Batman. But to me, like, that always said, okay, so what is he, like, on the city council or something?
It's like he's rich.
Gotham City. He honestly owns the whole city.
Also, I love Bruce's attempts to out the Penguin by being Bruce Wayne and putting accusations out there that are completely unfounded.
I just love how Bruce puts it out there. It's like, yeah, I'm a detective. I'm investigating the Penguin.
But you're just a billionaire. Like, why are you doing this? Don't you have better things or people you could hire?
In the first draft, that is a way bigger component of the story, this war between Max Schreck and Bruce Wayne over getting the power plant constructed. One thing I actually did like looking through the first draft was giving a little more context to why in God's name Max would pick the Penguin to be his candidate for mayor, which is he doesn't actually intend to have him elected. He's just humiliating the mayor by making the Penguin more popular than he is.
It's actually kind of genius.
So that whenever he gets reelected, he will know his place. Seriously, first draft, Max Schreck is the greatest Batman villain of all time.
I'm really disappointed we didn't get to see that. That sounds awesome with his music box and his insanity.
And his chip.
Oh, delightful Chip.
I think Chip was actually a last-minute addition, unfortunately. By the way, once again, I know I keep going back to the comics, but there was an alternate alter ego for Selina Kyle. Before Selina Kyle was actually a name in the comics, her alter ego, like Catwoman's actual alter ego, I swear to God, was a salon worker named Elva Barr. And she was a working girl who lived alone in a small apartment with her cat and constantly talked to herself. Her characterization was remarkably similar to the movie version, and the Elva Barr alter ego was also the first to portray Catwoman as a fully rounded character. This was also the first time she was shown to have an ordinary life away from her criminal activities, her own modest apartment and legitimate day job, and also the first time to show Bruce Wayne romancing Catwoman's real self, as opposed to simply flirting with her costume persona.
Did Bruce Wayne go get his hair done?
Possibly.
I like that this version of Catwoman is just Hellcat.
Pretty much.
Also, can we talk for a moment about the way Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle are written together in this movie?
Their chemistry is insane. I mean, partly because Michael Keaton actually dated Michelle Pfeiffer in real life before this, but their chemistry is actually really well done. Like, more than a lot of leads, actually. Like,
they have a great old Hollywood thing going on where they just play Bruce as Cary Grant.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
And Selina, like,
that's a great comparison.
Pfeiffer's portrayal of Selina really plays well into that version of Bruce Wayne because she's kind of the more daring of the two, as opposed to, like, in the comics, Bruce is more of a debonair, like, playboy. Like, he goes out of his way to sort of show off and be, like, the life of the party, but she's more so this in the movie, whereas, like, he's more, like, bumbling and almost an idiot.
Well, this version of Bruce is just a timid child.
Yeah.
Who's not really himself unless he's playing Batman.
But I do like the difference because the first time Batman sees Selina Kyle, she's, being held hostage, and he doesn't even bother saying anything to her. He just turns and walks away. Whereas this time, when she walks into the boardroom, you can see Bruce Wayne in the background just kind of smiling at her absentmindedly the entire time she's talking, just kind of staring and ogling her.
And also, not to say anything of the fact that he recognizes her immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's such a weird, like, I love the fact that Burton's version of Bruce Wayne constantly, like, made these little flubs where, like, mentally he was just in another space completely, and he would just blurt out stuff like, yeah, we've met.
You can tell his version of Bruce Wayne is just never really there in the moment. Like, even when he's in the elevator, I'm leaving. And he doesn't realize he's walking into an elevator. Like, he's just walking. He doesn't care where he is. He's just focused specifically on the other person across from him. He doesn't give two shits about what he's actually doing.
Yeah.
I've actually always really liked how Burton's version of Bruce isn't this constantly smooth, always in control guy. I like how he has... like, a lot of people have kind of crapped on how he acts with Selina for some reason. And I love that. I love how it's like a teenager whenever he's with her. It's more interesting. It feels more honest as a human being.
Well, it's interesting considering that his relationship with Vicky Vale was also kind of exploring the idea of, like, what is this thing called love in a weird way.
You make him sound like so much of a robot. What is this love?
Well, it's Batman.
Batman doesn't
Alfred.
know. It's cold.
Oracle, what is this love?
But the whole Penguin running for mayor thing, I feel like this is kind of obvious, but it's taken from the 60s series, like, completely. Like, the Penguin has, like, two of the greatest episodes of the 60s series are him running for mayor against Batman, who legitimately, like, runs against him and has, like, this completely straight-laced campaign, and the joke is that Penguin throws these lavish parties and gets elected because of that.
If only this movie had Batman defeated due to his inability to kiss a baby.
I would love to have seen Keaton Batman run for mayor.
In the full costume.
For his debate speech, he just stares.
I'm mayor.
We just see bumper stickers that say, eat floor, high fiber. Batman 92.
It's not even accurate. He saved millions of dollars of property damage.
God, Penguin's hands look so fucking creepy.
Right? All the Penguin looks pretty fucking creepy.
Oh yeah, Stan Winston just did a bang-up job on this.
It doesn't look like makeup. I just forget that this isn't what Danny DeVito looks like.
Yeah.
Right? I just figured they hired someone who is deformed. No.
Well, also, DeVito just such a great job of just staying in character all the time. Like, even Michelle Pfeiffer was like, he just does this all the time, and it's really creepy. Like, there was an incident on set where he has to have, the monkey come down and hand him the note from Batman, and the monkey was terrified of him.
I can't blame the monkey.
By the way, going back to Penguin's first appearance in the comics, I'm just going to read this down. The Penguin proceeds to orchestrate a crime wave behind the scenes, taking care to conceal his own involvement from the public. While he gains public support, Bruce Wayne starts to suspect a connection between the Penguin's arrival in Gotham and the recent increase in criminal activity, but he can't prove it. The Penguin's henchmen later attempt to pull off their latest crime, only for Batman to show up and stop them in the act, as you will see in the next scene. The Penguin then makes his presence known, as you will see in the scene after that.
Does he say, burn, baby, burn?
Possibly.
I like that this movie takes place in a universe where there are crime poodles.
Dropping grenades.
We see an animal doing something it shouldn't be doing.
This dog is actually like the fourth villain of the movie.
That dog is a terrorist.
No, do not steal the Canon watches.
I love how 80s Batman Returns is.
It really is, despite being 1992.
Like, it's somehow more 80s than the first film. I keep expecting RoboCop to show up. I guess Batman is kind of RoboCop-esque.
And he battles clown bad dudes.
How amazing is it we get a movie where Batman kung fu fights clowns?
And it's not
Poorly.
And Joker isn't the villain.
Oh, that's actually another thing is that this is more of a theory than anything. There's no like actual quotes to back it up, but
Damn it, MB, I want the hard facts.
the fact that the Penguin uses an amusement park hideout, and the fact that he teams up with circus folk is taken from The Killing Joke, because the Joker uses an amusement park and uses like sideshow people as his henchmen.
I could definitely see that.
Burton actually cites The Killing Joke as his favorite Batman story, so it's very likely that that's where it comes from. So, yeah, it literally is a Joker thing used for a Penguin plot.
Also, that was stupid. I'm sorry.
I still like how the dog, like, jumped an inch off the ground and got that thing at head level. No, Doug
So,
Jones.
I was going to say, Batman just punched Doug Jones and stole his dynamite.
Not his dynamite.
I like Catwoman just hanging out on the streets at night.
The best shot ever.
So well, recently, I'm not even sure where this leads. I went to, let's say we got all sorts of mangled. I went to the Warner Brothers lot, and they had out a whole bunch of costumes from the different Batman movies. And one of them was the Catwoman costume, posed in a glass box. And seeing it up close in person, you realize, God damn it, they should not have been able to fit half a person inside of that costume, let alone an actual actress who had to do flips and anything.
Well,
She was literally
incredibly
vacuum
tiny.
sealed into it.
Yeah,
With a corset.
That's literally because, they had to take maybe like 5 feet off of Michelle Pfeiffer's actual height in order to stuff her in there.
Yeah, it's just, in the movie she looks very small. In person it looks even smaller. Like, it does not look like anything you could actually expect a person to be inside of.
By the way, I just love how any time Catwoman shows up, it suddenly becomes the 40s. I think that's just Abbott and Costello she just defeated.
Meanwhile, visually, she's very, straight out of Nightmare Before Christmas. Like, she's very much Sally.
By the way, Tim Burton swears that Batman did not kill this man.
What about the guy he lit on fire with the Batmobile at the start of the
He
film?
actually goes into this in the commentary. He says, well, Batman Returns is much more of a cartoon universe than Batman 89, so those guys were just covered in soot 5 minutes later.
To be fair, though, he also makes the argument
No, not
that...
the gas.
To be fair, Burton also makes the argument that you could potentially just have it in your mind's eye to be whatever you want it to be. So he kind of leaves it open to where it's like, yeah, he killed them. But, if you want to say he did, then...
Honestly, I don't think it matters. This version of Batman seems like he would kill people.
Well,
even if he
we
doesn't,
have
whatever.
seen him kill before, so I guess that's wrong.
Oh, yeah. Well,
And he never makes any statements like, killing is bad, I will not kill. No, this Batman just seems chill with the whole murder thing. And okay, I
Yeah.
can accept that. In universe, that's how this Batman works.
Well, the thing is that the Burton Batman films, both of them really harken back to the old comics. And in the old comics, Batman dropped people left and right. It was really kind of a problem.
He murdered giants with machine guns.
He hung
And
them at the
nooses.
bat plane and flew them around.
He broke a dude's neck with the bottom of his shoe.
He Papa spanked.
He did a lot of things.
Oh yeah, he used guns back then. Like he literally used guns and shot the undead. Like he killed vampires and all that stuff. Like the original Batman was a weird pulp character.
By the way, can you imagine cartwheeling out of a store you're about to blow up and seeing that Batman and that Penguin looking at you awkwardly? Yo ho ho, and away I go, and my penguin
This is
copter.
ridiculous. I love
Okay.
Yeah,
I just wanna. I know we're talking about the movie, but Mike, please tell the audience about your years-long obsession with having an umbrella copter.
Gonna fly! I just want to exit a room like that. I just want it to happen. We have to have dreams, MB. We all deserve dreams.
I just love how one of the biggest things as far as, like, you and I have known each other for over 10 years at this point. The umbrella copter has been the thread that has kept us together. It's always been there in the background.
The umbrella copter and the birdmobile.
God.
And when you guys go to Pulp Valhalla, they'll be waiting for you.
Shiny and chrome. I like how clumsy Batman looks in his entire... It honestly kind of works with the way Batman is staring at Catwoman, just like, oh, I forgot how to move.
I love how Batman just has acid.
He just throws it.
It went from being awestruck to her by, like, I have to murder her now.
Well, this
I also don't know how this scene works out at all, because, like, the logistics of it, Batman's hanging off the side of a building.
Makes no sense.
And then all of a sudden he jumps up, he's in front of her, but she fell up into the... It doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Gotham City is like Hogwarts, it just moves around.
It's like goddamn Cthulhu here, like none of the angles make sense. The geometry's all wrong.
You know, I hate the implication that she can at all feel his dick.
Seriously, that is a Batman movie where Catwoman just grabs Batman's crotch.
And then Batman drops her off a fucking...
No, not drops. Pimp slaps her.
Papa Spank.
Going back to this Batman not murdering, what did that Batman think was going to happen? He just punched her off of a several-story building. In most cases, that'd be death.
He sensed the cat litter coming. Like, this will be ironic.
Okay, I love Batman taking off his glove.
Everyone fucking loves the scene. It's universal. Batman with a missing glove. Everyone's like, oh my god. Everyone loves that image.
Whenever Batman's, like, in some scene but not wearing one component of his costume, it's always magical for some reason.
It's like he's real.
He's flesh and blood, like me.
Like Batman on the phone in costume.
Hello, Batman speaking.
As if he can hear any of that. What? What are you saying? I can't hear you out of this fucking cow.
I want to backtrack just a little bit on Batman murdering. And this sounds really bitchy about Nolan's Batman movies, and I don't want it to seem like I'm just trying to shit on his entire trilogy. But it has always bothered me that Batman is so hypocritical on murder. Like, I don't have to save you, but I'm gonna let you die in this train, and then he flies away in Batman Begins. That seems fucking weird.
It was a weird eat your cake and have it too in the Nolan movies. Like, Batman doesn't actually kill people, but we don't know how to write around the fact that he's not actually killing these people.
Or he might be setting people up to die. Whereas this Batman it's not even an issue because this Batman has no compulsion. He's got no problems murdering people.
Batman will strangle someone with his bare hands in this movie.
He'll take off his fucking gloves, alright.
If someone punches Batman, he'll drop you off of a 10-story building without even thinking about it. It's just a reflex for him. So, because he doesn't care, I don't care. It works very well.
I love how smooth Penguin is.
Oh, God.
His little pose.
The Danny DeVito charm.
Love him calling Catwoman a happy homemaker. Because again, anytime Catwoman is invoked, it just becomes the 50s.
I think the brilliant part about the Penguin's portrayal in this movie is he's not really made to be sympathetic, although he should be. He's a mutated freak who was dumped in the sewer by his parents. And he just doesn't seem that sympathetic because Danny DeVito doesn't play him like, woe is me, I'm the Penguin. He just plays him as a complete perverse monster, which actually kind of makes him sympathetic. He gets so caught up in this plot to kidnap all the children of Gotham and then gets waylaid by becoming mayor. Like the idea of people liking him that he just runs with it. It's such a weird thing. He's a sad, pathetic little creature and it's just like, someone give him a noogie and like a warm sandwich. He needs love.
I think it's just because he gets caught up in the idea of reliving the life he could have had in a weird way.
He's a strangely complex character for basically being fucking crazy Danny DeVito in makeup.
Let's face it, Danny DeVito himself is a complex character.
He is. Danny DeVito's awesome, man.
Yeah, this version of Penguin is what I've always wanted to see in a Killer Croc.
Well, actually, once again, going back to the comics, I know I keep doing this, but Killer Croc's original origin story was essentially the same thing. He was raised by circus folk, and there's actually, like...
We can't trust children raised by circus folk. That's what I'm getting out of all of this.
You were raised by circus folk, Cody.
Don't trust me. Don't do it. People
Dick
at home,
Grayson,
don't trust me.
Burn, baby, burn!
But yeah, like, there are actually panels from Killer Croc's first issue where he's looking at people through the sewers like DeVito's Penguin does. So, weirdly, it's kind of a mishmash.
Yeah, I've always said that this version of the Penguin is essentially a little bit of Penguin, but just done as Killer Croc.
Very much so.
I've always wanted to see a version of Killer Croc who's a little more intelligent and a bit more self-aware of a situation.
Just muscle.
Well,
Imagine
actually,
Killer Croc as the mayor biting off noses of people.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the original version of Croc was just kind of a mob boss. Like, he was more intelligent.
Really?
Yeah. I guess they just ran with the strongman theme and just never got away, never really got away from it.
Then he threw a rock at him.
I think the animated series is probably one of the better twists on Croc when there is the episode with, oh god, what's her name? The doll?
Dollface.
Doll? No.
Baby doll.
Baby doll, yeah. That one episode where they kind of like go on the lam together.
Yeah. Love is a Croc.
Yeah.
There we go, yeah.
The anime series had a good Killer Croc. Like, they kind of went back and forth with playing him really dumb and actually fairly normal.
By the way,
Goddamn,
I love that this was in the day. This is in the day where if you wanted Catwoman to put a bird in her mouth and spit it out, you just told Michelle Pfeiffer to put a fucking bird in her mouth and spit it out.
CGI.
What's funny is that Pfeiffer basically volunteered to do that and then did it for several takes. Like,
They had a fake bird already going. She's like, no, we're going to do it live. And she brought her own bird with her.
like, Pfeiffer was game for so much. Like, she had to be passed around from person to person to be put in this weird suit. And then she did all these weird stunts and had to do, like, the whole jump rope thing in Shrek's office, like she did by herself, even though she's wearing this really tight suit. And then
Giant heels.
she also did the thing where it's like she's half dead in the alley and she does the thing with her eyes that really, like, shocked the hell out of Burton.
Did she cover herself in kitty litter or like cat food so cats would gnaw on her fingers too? Was that her idea?
She's just that delicious.
Have you ever heard the story of how the WB executives reacted when they first saw the costume? Like, the costume designer just sat them all in a darkened theater and then just showed them a slideshow of the first costume tests of Michelle Pfeiffer in that suit, and they were all just silent and slack-jawed because it was essentially them watching S&M pornography. And it's just, you could hear a pin drop in that room, and the designer just kind of walks past all the guys and it's like, yeah, check that shit out, and leaves.
Also, like, in those photos, she was done up in, like, this stark white makeup. Like, that's what you see on all the posters, is essentially like the costume test where Burton had this idea of having all the characters be really pale in the initial test, so he had them
ran
all, like,
with it for the next 20 years.
essentially.
It's Burton's obsession with German expressionism.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something we haven't talked about. This is probably the best example of American expressionism I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I've maintained for years, the best way to view Batman Returns is not as a Batman movie or as even an American movie, but just a weird foreign expressionist movie that just happens to be in English.
Pretend it's black and white and silent. It suddenly looks like it's a Marnow film.
I mean, the Penguin specifically was based on the cabinet of Dr. Caligari's makeup.
Well, Max
See,
Schreck
the
is
big
obviously a
dark
callback to
shoulders.
Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Especially with the subtle hints of like the wispy eyebrow kind of thing. God, could you imagine Christopher Walken going full on Nosferatu?
Oh, God.
Nightmares.
Who's saying he's not already?
Mm.
But as a child, I was always incredibly disturbed by the viciousness which the Penguin throws that fucking batarang. Like, it
You
just
wanted
looks
her
like
out
he
cold.
killed her.
It was weird, like, the batarang is stained with blood when it's found, and yet the Ice Princess, when you see her, is like, she's totally fine.
It hit her
Is that a
lips.
camera?
I like how Alfred has to essentially do Bruce's date for him.
He has to play matchmaker.
Also, an interesting parallel I didn't realize until it was pointed out on actually one of the DVD featurettes I was watching recently. Bruce has almost the exact same fireplace as the Cobblepots in the first scene.
Ah, interesting.
Like, that was their way of visually tying together. Like, the blue blood world of Gotham City was ridiculously large, pointless fireplace.
It's like Mr. Burns' fireplace with that one tree in it.
Well, it's interesting, too, because in the 89 Batman movie, Wayne Manor looks absolutely nothing like this, but everything is so extrapolated in this version of events to where you go on sets and literally everything is just like 20 times bigger than it actually is supposed to be. It's almost like every single set is some weird dystopian version of Santa's Workshop or something like that.
Well,
Like,
that's
it ties really well into the Christmas theme, but also just in the over-the-top expressionistic idea of it.
that's like the core of expressionism, is just using the sets to convey emotion. And I mean, they very deliberately made Wayne Manor look like they designed it so that Bruce looked like he was a child walking around in an adult's house. So everything is twice as big as it's supposed to be. And everything's just gloomy and oppressing.
My big takeaway is how tall they made everything in this movie. There's a lot of height, which is interesting because before we were saying it makes the movie feel widescreen, but just the idea that everything has to reach, and I think that could maybe connect back to the ideas, on class separation. You've got the very tall, the very high, and the very low. But goddamn, it also helps us make the movie look really unique. Like, especially that last shot of the film where the camera rises above all the buildings of Gotham to the bat signal and Catwoman's head. Just that long reaching shot. I love it.
Spoilers, Catwoman lives.
Whoa!
By the way, I love the fact that the thing that she touched was, his scratch from her. The thing he revealed was her acid.
Also, Black Knox here, I like to think.
And Commissioner Gordon getting his lines in.
Gordon has such a non-part in this film, even more so than the first film. It's ridiculous.
We found this. It looks really incriminating. Investigation's still going.
Why am I here?
Yeah,
Looks like we'll have to solve this one ourselves.
Yeah, weirdly enough, Pat Hingle is dead on for early Commissioner Gordon, because if you read those comic books, he's a short, portly dude with a mustache and glasses. And he does nothing except light the bat signal and tell Batman of crimes.
Just tell
And
Batman.
we have some new crimes for you.
Just Batman going through his mail. Crime. Ooh, Publishers Clearinghouse.
Ooh.
Alfred will be rich. Oh, I am.
He investigates whether or not he may have won $10 million.
I feel like Alfred is really underplayed in this movie as well. I mean, he does great with a couple of lines he has, like, one has just come to mind. I love that, but I really wish we had more of him as well.
Yeah.
Well, Mike could go, in the entire, all 4 films that he was in, honestly, really could have used more material to work with, because he would have made an amazingly dramatic Alfred, like in the vein of Michael Caine, if he was just given more material to work with.
Hey,
Just like in Batman and Robin.
he got his story in Batman and Robin.
I was going to say it's a shame that Batman and Robin was the Alfred heavy one.
I'm sorry, it just kills me that they're just on hooks.
Also, what? Okay, this bothered me all the way back to childhood. Why does he specifically brush aside those 3 bat suits?
This is his lucky bat suit. Why is he taking those boots? Who knows?
It's his favorite one. What I love is he has the ones set up and the ones on hooks that are all down. Like, so he just brushes past the other suits. So weird.
That's the display model. It's like when you walk in a car dealership. You see the one, but you don't drive off the lot with that. You go buy your own, and the other one is just for people to look at. Put their fingers on and all that.
I just love the idea of Catwoman being a blue collar.
Oh, by the way, should note, this movie is one of the first movies to use CG in terms of like CG animals and CG vehicles. Like that, you saw that with the Batmobile just there, but also you're about to see like later on with bats. Like this was kind of the experimental days of CGI in movies.
And this is actually, the Batman franchise has a lot of firsts in CGI. Batman and Robin has the first CGI stuntman.
Yeah. Actually, Batman Forever does, because remember, like, he's leaping down that, side of that building, and that's completely computer generated.
Oh yeah, that's true. I might be thinking of that one.
Blends better than it logically should.
It's kind of got that stop motion look, so it almost looks like a period of the time, even though it's not.
God, and this shot right here, like, even though it's just him standing on a rooftop, like, it's like something straight out of the comics.
I love how much that yellow pops around the black and the gray.
Oh,
I
yeah.
always love the oval.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to talk the entire commentary.
The monkey.
The Batsuit in this film is, bar none, like, probably next to the Dark Knight suit, the greatest Batsuit ever depicted anywhere.
I just want to say that on my notes I have, in all caps, tell MB to talk about the Batsuit.
The Batsuit in this, I mean, for one thing, I love how sleek it is. Like, this has always been my favorite cowl of all of them, because it just, for one thing, it form fits to the head, but it also has, like, the perfect Neil Adams length ears, and it blends into the cape really well. Like, the cape is still kind of leathery, but it still has, like, a sheen of, like, sleekness to it, and then
Got skull architecture on the sides as well.
Oh yeah, and then also the armor itself was based off of automobile parts and like Art Deco stylistic automobile parts.
Yeah, it looks so much better than the sculpted muscle they always tend to go with these kinds of costumes. Also, that is Doug Jones holding an explosive device and grinning as a clown as he rigs the Batmobile.
I appreciate that you're watching out for Doug Jones in this movie.
Listen,
Always watch out for Doug Jones.
Listen, there was once a time where Batman battled Doug Jones. That's incredible.
You know, the sad thing is, I love the look of this Batsuit until it's like really in motion. Like, it's fine when he's climbing upstairs, but anytime he has to like approach a bad guy with any amount of speed or actually fight someone, it's like, oh, why?
I think it looks better in motion than the 89 suit.
Oh yeah.
Well, the 89 suit he was an action figure in that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the 89 suit was literally like 5 pounds thick in terms of like diameter, just around him. Not even like the heaviness of it being worn. Like, it literally was like, it was so thick that you probably could have shot actual bullets at him and it wouldn't have pierced him.
And here we go to the greatest scene of all time.
Oh, yeah.
A scene that Kevin Smith hates for some reason.
What? Really?
Well, Kevin Smith hates the Burton movies because Tim Burton made fun of him 15 years ago.
Well,
Let's not get into Kevin Smith and his rivalries.
The scene, though, I mean, come on. This is like just such a great interaction between Batman and Catwoman.
Is that their ship name?
It is now. I'm pushing it forward.
I cannot believe that this is in a major studio superhero movie.
Also, I have never, outside of this, seen the idea of Catwoman licking Batman. Like, for some reason, that is such a no-brainer moment for those two, and yet it had to be this movie that did it first.
And Batman's so into it.
He just plays it off. He doesn't even care. He licks his lips and doesn't even mention the fact he was just licked.
I just love how S&M this movie is. It's like they make no real apologies for it.
And she just tried to stab him in the fucking heart, and he just plays it off like, ah.
Also, my favorite bit of Batman logic in any of the movies. All of these people are scared of me because they think I just killed this woman. Time to swoop over them with my bat wings like some kind of nightmare. Ooh,
Love me!
hear me!
Go, Batman, asshole.
Also, I never noticed this until watching it as an adult, but Batman is never exonerated in this movie.
No, he's not.
Not at all.
In Batman Returns, he's still... I mean, in Batman and Robin, he is still wanted for the murder of the Ice Princess.
Right? He basically makes Penguin look bad, and everyone forgets, like, oh, that Batman, who cares? Penguin's a dick.
No, here's my theory. Like, you know how Batman spent a lot of time in the Schumacher movies, like making public appearances, like taking photos of himself and doing all that? That was community service.
That's why he had to attend that trial.
I could honestly see that happening.
He had to do jury duty for the murder of the Ice Princess.
That's it. No wonder, goddamn, Gotham just so corrupt. I'd be mad too if Batman got off of murder just with some light community service.
I love how the Penguin is just the ultimate douchebag dude in this movie.
Such a horn dog.
It's like he would buy slippers just to have Catwoman give him slippers.
I like how he goes to, I don't think I like you anymore, I have to murder you.
The amount of times I've witnessed Mike do this to his girlfriends, I swear to God.
He's killed like 7 of them.
You're usually dressed like that, too. That's the weird thing.
You've lost so many umbrella covers. They are not cheap.
I never even get to ride them because I kill women with them before I can.
By the way, that was also one of the first uses of CGI. That shot of Catwoman over the city.
God. I love the representation of the costume as her psyche.
Yes.
It is a really well done element. Also, like, the fact that her cowl is all ripped up and it has her hair sticking out is basically them saying, hey, these are all the looks of Catwoman from the comics just in your face. Like, it's her with the hair sticking out. It's her just normal, it just goes through so many different phases. It's fascinating.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate the fact that the Penguin had someone for his own amusement and the amusement of no one else design a tiny Batmobile with a little thing sticking out of the side that says Bat Ride, insert 50 cents, that he does not use. He just wants it there for the joke.
I like how we all were thinking about this too.
Small amount of time.
And he has a bat-shaped, like, steering wheel thing that he holds on to. Like, he is having the time of his life in that.
That cost millions of dollars.
The transmitter is pinstriped. Like,
Can you imagine
a lot of superfluous touches on this thing.
Well, think about the fact that Shrek is funding his campaign. Can you imagine Shrek finding out about this and being enraged?
He's finding it on an invoice. Also, this is exactly what happened whenever Matt tried to teach me how to drive.
Also, I'm just gonna say it. Batman was going to do all of this whether or not the car was actually taken over. Like, those cop cars were going to be slid into the walls. It was just, it was going to be chaos.
They were chasing him down for murder, so I imagine he'd be driving like this anyways.
Not even for murder. Like, he would have driven like this regardless. Like, this is how he entered Gotham.
I just like how the idea that the major conceit of this scene is that the Batmobile is gigantic and unwieldy and should not be driven in a normal context.
Just when there's a bunch of clowns you have to run over. That's the only time you need the Batmobile.
This Batmobile is more lethal than the Tumbler.
Yeah, I like how there's scenes like this in the Dark Knight movies, except Batman's not being controlled by anyone.
Okay, can somebody please edit?
Just mash him up.
Christian Bale's Batman, like, racing home to save Rachel, and it just cuts to the Oswald Cobblepot School of Driving.
Oh, it's some of the greatest, like, villain catchphrases. Like, I played this stinking city like a harp from hell.
Thank God Batman records all that on CD.
On his Bat CD.
Can somehow mix like it's a turntable. Batman, I don't think you understand technology. Wicka, 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 yeah!
He nearly hit Gossip Gertie.
I'm still confused. Like, they pulled the entire Batmobile apart, but that thing was just on the bottom of the car, just magnet on there, and then he just pulled it off and it's fine. Like, I don't understand.
Run with it.
Doug Jones decided to get whimsical. By the way, I just want to point out to the folks keeping track at home, not more than a couple of years after rigging Batman's car, Doug Jones battled the Sanderson sisters as a zombie. That man has had a magical career.
He's been everywhere. He's been giant bugs. He's been clowns. He's been everything.
He's been the Silver Surfer.
I like how, for no particular reason, the Batmobile has a dick mode.
Yep.
Just in case he has to go between buildings.
We're clearly built too close together.
Funny, you should say that. This is from the comics.
Oh, of course the car is from the comics.
There is, okay, this, just to give it context, this was from the 50s. So, it makes a little more sense when you think about it, because it was from the 50s. But yeah, there was a Bat missile, vehicle from, I believe it was, Batman 257. He creates the Bat missile, which is an addendum to the Batmobile, where it literally has wheels and all that. And then there's actually a scene in that comic where it breaks away from the car and just becomes a missile. So weirdly enough, that has precedence.
I like how this is the most golden age Batman movie.
By the way, I would vote for Penguin. I'm just saying.
All I was saying is I could have Michelle Pfeiffer glare at me like that for hours.
Same. I like Bruce's big screen TV here.
Speaking of the Catwoman costume, did you ever hear the story of like where the idea for that came from? Or just the costume designer saw a weird German sculpture in a museum somewhere that was just a woman stitched apart like Frankenstein's monster. And like a light bulb went off into his head. And, that's what Catwoman should look like.
Oh, he brought it before Burton, and Burton was immediately in love. Like, he did sketches, and he did like a lot of weird sketches where Catwoman's nipples were visible. So it's weird.
Why would you even draw that?
Why wouldn't you?
So, if you've ever seen Tim Burton's first sketch of the Penguin, it's just movie Penguin exactly. Also, I like how Alfred gets there at the same time.
I like how he had to design that Iron Maiden to have the spikes pull back at him. Like, maybe just put the slide back a little further, Bruce.
Also, we went past the lines that was setting up Robin about who was going to fix the Batmobile.
Oh, yeah.
As played by Marlon Wayans.
As filmed with Marlon Wayans.
Yeah, Marlon Wayans was originally in this movie as Dick Grayson. No, not Dick Grayson. I think he was literally just unnamed.
Wasn't he just named Robin?
Maybe, I'm not sure, but he filmed the scene They decided to cut his character, and he still got paid full. He gets paid royalties to this day for Batman Returns.
I'm sure he's living off them at this point.
Didn't a couple of people like have sweet deals with this because the plans changed so much? Like Harvey Dent wasn't featured, but the actor still got paid.
Oh well, Billy D. Williams got an insane like payout for essentially
forever.
Yeah,
Forever,
essentially
yeah.
being fired. Like Schumacher paid him an insane amount of Warner Brothers paid him an insane amount of money per Schumacher's request so that he could cast Tommy Lee Jones. And I mean, of course, Nicholson's deal is friggin' legendary, where he got like 50% of the profits for the biggest marketing bonanza of 1989.
That's not how CDs work, Bruce. Stop it.
That's how bat CDs work.
Wouldn't it have made more sense to like give this to the police officers as evidence? But no, okay, this is fine too. However you want to roll it.
Hey, theatricality and deception are essential.
I like how everyone then just turns on Penguin.
Yeah, we heard him say one weird thing. Ah!
I like how Shrek thinks he can also get away with just going, you're done, Oswald. Like, weren't you being blackmailed?
Also, I love Penguin just pacing the stage, like just screaming at people.
Getting lettuce and tomatoes thrown at him.
I saw some trivia on IMDb that said they wanted to use a stunt guy for this, and Danny DeVito insisted that he was the one who was pelted with tomatoes and lettuce.
It's a life dream. So this is the greatest getaway in movie history. Being chased all the way across Gotham City.
I love the flying leap he makes for no goddamn reason. Like, I have to knock these 3 people down. Specifically, fuck them.
I just love how ridiculous this is. It just becomes like the 30s Scarface.
I also like how the police try to murder him. Like, they pull guns on this guy who just basically said mean stuff at a rally and shoved some people.
And I don't know how
He fired upon them. He fired upon them.
That is true.
That's true. Okay, yeah, that's very true. I spaced that out. You're right.
Hey, I don't know how he gets away with that shallow little creek.
Well, it goes in the world's largest sewer, so I'm sure it's very, very deep, actually.
Also, something I completely forgot to mention earlier on in the film, but the first shot of Penguin in the cage, I first noticed this today, actually, when I was rewatching a little bit of the movie. The cage has a rubber ducky right outside of it.
I did not notice that until watching the Blu-ray a couple of weeks ago.
Like, I didn't know they foreshadowed the duck.
Oh no, is that Doug Jones? Did he take a cane to the face?
I think so.
It's okay, he's still moving.
God, look at those midgets.
What a thing to say.
Just the worst looking penguins in history.
It's one of those weird things where it's like, they look amazing considering they're not real, but why didn't you just get real penguins?
They have to carry around missiles. That's too dangerous for real penguins.
Well, they have real penguins. That's the weird thing, because like animal rights protesters were outside of this because they had to use real penguins for the
Swimming set.
climate-controlled sets.
Oh yeah, and there's real penguins swimming around and stuff, but like those ones just standing there, just like.
Oh yeah, they're puppets. They're straight up puppets.
Isn't there some that are just midgets in suits though?
Yeah, there are.
God.
Because Hollywood was weird.
Fat clown, no.
I'll miss you, fat clown.
He was the heart of the operation.
He was the Bob the Goon of the operation.
That's actually his brother, Rob the Clown.
Oh god, could you imagine if the Batman movies had done that as tradition? Like, a Rob, a Bob, just each one had to have a related brother being murdered by the villain.
Okay, how did Bruce get over there? How did he get the Batmobile?
He leaped.
Okay, just think, underneath the car, on like one of those platforms that a mechanic uses, is Marlon Wayans as Robin.
Wasn't there a trading card that did exist with an image of him fixing the Batmobile?
It's really hard to find, but yeah, there is. I've never seen it personally, but it supposedly exists, and
It amazes me that the footage has never surfaced. Like, that's just buried.
And now for some probably really obvious symbolism. Everyone's in masks except for Bruce Wayne.
I wonder actually.
Normally he's in the mask, and it's funny because Bruce Wayne is not the real Bruce Wayne, but Batman's the real Bruce Wayne. But it's right now it's his real face, and everyone's in masks. Ah!
What insightful commentary, Cody.
I try.
Also, I love just Christopher Walken as a Sultan.
So, Mask of the Red Death. Up behind Bruce.
I never noticed that.
Yep. I'm more confused. Someone is just wearing a menorah. Like, I don't understand what the theme of this masquerade is.
Really racist.
Is it wrong or insulting to wear a menorah as a hat?
Yes, it is.
Oh, I should stop doing that.
Also, the greatest Batman movie song of all time.
It is.
Oh, this is just the Catwoman song to me.
It's no love crimes, but it's pretty good.
It's almost as good.
I love that there was a time when Susie and the Banshees performed a song for Catwoman.
Not only that, but Danny Elfman actually did the music for it, so
Really?
It's a collaboration.
I feel like Tom Cruise is about to bust in.
I was thinking this kind of reminded me of, have you guys ever seen Judex?
No.
No.
Okay. Old, it's, you can find it online, I'm pretty sure they just have it available, but it's like an old, pulp movie from, I think the 40s, like French film, where there's a hero who, like, has a bird mask and he thwarts crime using his multi-million riches. A lot of similarities to Batman, really.
Is that a Flash helmet? That's what I think. Well, a Hermes helmet.
Yeah.
We can pretend.
That's actually Jay Garrick there undercover. He's gonna take Max Shrek down.
I would say it's a Flash reference, but it's a Burton film. I don't think Burton knows who the hell Flash is.
So I really love... Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I have to say, this is the only version of Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle as a couple I've ever really bought.
Oh, yeah. I really love this scene in particular until it gets to the part where she's like, do we have to fight now? And everything until that is just excellent.
I like her little Old West gun.
And Bruce Wayne's panic, I have to hide the evidence.
He pulls out napalm from his breast pocket.
Oh!
She just runs out in flames.
Sets off his bat nuke.
So once again, like, Michelle Pfeiffer is giving a AAA performance, and it's this movie. Like, not as a knock to anyone or anything in this movie, but there's something about it that's out of place, you know, in the most fantastic way imaginable.
Yeah, she gives an Oscar performance in this weird-ass cartoon of a movie.
Oh, God, Bruce, you just fucked up. You gave it all away.
You could have had it all, Brucey. I like to think that the couple behind them is having the exact same conversation.
To think, we would have had Annette Bening as Catwoman.
Best entrance ever. With that perfectly round hole.
And all those people just broke their legs.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. I figure anyone can rob a bank. Oh, wrong movie.
Thank God this was directly over a sewer.
Well, thank God that everybody in Gotham was here, and once Penguin declared his plan, none of them went home.
He has penguins at all the exits.
Penguins with machine guns.
God, that is the greatest supervillain entrance ever.
Just on a giant rubber ducky with penguins with fucking rockets strapped to their back. With a Danny Elfman song playing.
Oh, God.
Just with bile coming out of his mouth.
For some reason.
Also, the top hat on the duck is my favorite thing in the world.
and the pure insanity of the plan itself. Penguin was just going to kill all the firstborn children, because fuck it. There's been, like, no real religious overtones until now, but now all of a sudden it has to get biblical, where it's like, the firstborn must suffer.
Also, then I'm going to use suicidal penguins to blow up Gotham City.
Okay, so, for anyone who hasn't listened to it, this is not the first commentary Mike and I have done for Batman Returns. The last one ended with Mike losing his mind in the third act when he realized that Batman Returns was Batman Returns.
I had a realization. I had a religious awakening about.
You had a nervous breakdown.
I realized this film in the third act is ridiculous in a way I never realized before.
Batman Returns has the most...
Look at it! Look at it!
in the duck. This is one of my, seriously, one of my favorite third acts ever committed to film. It is beautiful.
It's like if Terry Gilliam directed a Batman movie.
It is.
Are the penguins particularly well trained, or are they mind controlled? I always thought mind controlled due to the little hats, but that could be radio frequency. I'm not sure.
Well, it's explained, yeah.
In the first draft, they are translator helmets.
Well, not even in, like, just in the first draft. Like, in the final film, like, Batman manipulates a signal and sends them back. So, yeah, it's actually, like, operated out of their helmets. Those
now
weird helmets.
More novelty umbrellas.
I've always loved how Penguin just looks like a giant baby. That was actually one of the original designs like they had for how the Penguin was going to look, is he was originally going to just be wearing the clothes he was swaddled in like a baby, as a baby, like Superman.
Also, I just want to point a little
inconspicuous,
a little something out here. Penguin wanted to murder children. Like, even in the comics, they never did anything that dark.
I just love this. Like, the movie takes such a weird turn. Like, you just saw a clown lady with her tits out running with a kidnapped child to murder it. It's so fucking weird.
I like how long the Penguin was dancing with that thing.
God.
Just think, that monkey had to be coaxed to look Danny DeVito in the eye.
This is what I've been obsessed with since I was a kid. Batman wrote out a card, gave it to a monkey, and then instructed the monkey to return home to the lair of the Penguin to give him an ultimatum. Batman
still writes Batman at the
Batman.
I think the movie has to be this insane to make up for the fact that there's not really a huge amount of action in the third act.
And then the greatest speech ever.
You know, in Batman 89, there's a lot of fights between him and, like, the Samurai Goons and the Joker and all that. And in this one, he doesn't have as many one-on-one conflicts. Like, he has to do some fancy driving and stop some bombs and all this kind of stuff. But it's just so insane it feels like a climax. You kind of gloss over the fact it's not a fisticuffs thing.
Yeah, Batman doesn't really do much. Catwoman disappears. It's weird.
Well, the third act is less about, like, being an action-packed third act and more of, like, being an artistic expression in a weird way. Like, it is, like, the quote about me comparing it to a Terry Gilliam film was because I suddenly realized that this third act is basically the adventures of Baron Munchausen.
It really is.
Yeah.
In, like, a weird, dark, twisted sense of the word. Because it is just insanity being thrown at you. And one by one, the penguins just...
Yeah, I did. This is happening.
I can't tell you how surreal it was to see for the first time B-roll footage of Danny DeVito giving that speech, but from behind, with, like, his voice echoing throughout the set. It's like,
Cody,
oh god, this actually happened?
Cody.
Yes.
When you were on the Warner Brothers lot tour, Did you not see, like, one of the missile penguins?
They even had one of those on display. I'm not sure if it's like an actual stunt penguin used from the movie, but they had like the little rocket pack costume on a fake penguin. They actually did a very good job representing all the movies. They had stuff from 89, Batman Returns, Forever, Batman Robin. They had stuff from all of that.
Did they have Danny DeVito on display? Hey, how you doing?
They had a Danny DeVito costume.
I've seen photos of Danny DeVito at that exhibit. It's weird.
Just staring longingly at the case. That was me.
I was him once.
The once and future penguin.
I like how Batman's radar has a penguin mode. He always knew this day would come.
Penguin just fired rockets at Batman's bat skiff.
No. Emperor penguins with rocket attachments fired rockets at Batman's bat skiff. And now they're marching on Gotham.
Love their little armor.
Also, while all this is happening, I feel like I should point out, Christopher Walken is in a giant bird cage.
And there's a monkey.
Suspended over a lake of radioactive waste.
Christopher Walken, who is technically the lost Cobblepot son. I like how that was the plot point they dropped because even they realized this movie had gotten too crazy.
Well, in Sam Hamm's script, like, they were going to reveal that the whole conspiracy behind Jack Napier killing the Waynes was because he didn't agree to help them search for their ancestors' gold.
Because they cannot stop fucking with that origin.
Like, you think this movie is complicated now? Think of all the weird plot lines they had to drop through subsequent drafts.
I love their little targets. They go over their eyes.
Something is wrong.
So Batman didn't even stop the penguins. Alfred did that.
Hey, Batman releases some bats later that inadvertently kill Penguin.
Right? Like, it's just amazing to watch this because Batman plays a very small part in things, really. Like, he just does a couple of minor deals like, okay, I'm going to play the CD of Penguin being an asshole. That's going to pretty much wrap that plot up. I'm going to have my butler disarm these penguin bombs. And, call that a day.
Which Burton still defends to this day. Like, his exact quote is, I like to respect Batman's privacy. It's the most Tim Burton thing in the world. I don't think Batman likes the cameras on him.
Like, I'm perfectly fine with Batman not being the one to go roundabout, fix everything. Considering how the movie's split between Batman, Penguin, and Catwoman, it makes sense that all of them have their own big parts to play.
Yeah. I think the structure of this film is fascinating and pretty perfect. Even though it doesn't really have Batman in it, it still feels like it has Batman in it somehow.
It feels like a Gotham City movie, as opposed to, like, just a Batman movie.
That fucking Doc.
Doc Jones, don't leave me now! Standing clown, no.
No.
I love the clown's tumbling off.
I like how the poodle lady just vanishes.
Think of the implications, though, of the Tumblr clowns. Like, just imagine. That's the only way they can move.
And then this happens. I'm getting the fuck out of here!
Like those Tumblr clowns, like they have to go to the bank and like withdraw money from their account. They have to roll in like that, get the money, and then tumble back out.
Also, I just want to say for posterity, yo ho ho and away we go in my birdmobile.
This is
Also,
ridiculous.
Batman sees that Penguin is escaping and then bursts out of a zoo exhibit.
And runs him the fuck over.
Everything.
Oops, did I do that?
I like how he has to move his head.
God, and all the Batmobiles is pretty much like that. They're surprisingly low to the ground. There's not a lot of clearance for Batman to fit in there.
Hey, you actually saw all of them up close and personal.
I did, yeah.
Even the new one, the Affleck Mobile.
Yep, it's so interesting because the Affleck-mobile has like the biggest tires I've ever seen on a car. They're huge. They're several feet tall. And the car seems huge without being tall. Like, it's very wide, it's very long. And that's kind of true of all the Batmobiles. The Tumbler is surprisingly compact. Like, I was expecting that one to just be like a tank, but it wasn't quite. Sadly, they would not let me jump inside any of the Batmobiles and drive them around the lot.
You tried, though.
Yeah.
It's babies.
By the way, this particular plot line was taken from a story in the comics literally called The Penguin Affair. Batman literally has a remote control device that he uses to stop Penguin's murderous penguins.
I like how it's a weird running thing that almost every Batman movie is just an amalgam of the most random comic book stories imaginable.
Speaking of Batman being a dick, he basically just tricks the Penguin into pushing the button to destroy himself with his own penguins.
Very Jigsaw of him.
What a douchey move by Batman. He couldn't even just push it himself. He had to be like, no, Penguin has to do it to himself.
Oh, Batman could have also taken Penguin out at any point. I mean, look at Penguin. He's gigantic. It's sad. It's Batman.
Also, I want to get into the fact that Penguin's death makes no sense in this movie.
No.
Like, he falls from a window into water, then rises up like Lazarus, but is, like, covered in cuts and scars and, like, is bleeding out.
His green blood.
And is choking on. Like, it just makes no sense. It was like, okay, we need to get rid of this character.
Well, he was actually fine when he passed out. The Penguins just thought he was dead and then put him into the water, then he drowned. Penguins actually did it. Also, that gun would never work.
Also, that gun was never there. Like, I paid attention in the last scene when he was killed. He didn't have a gun.
Penguin dropped it in there a long time ago. Oh, and Catwoman's back in the movie now.
Hey, a completely unhinged look.
By the way, this is like the best Catwoman has ever looked, barring like the Darwin Cook version. Like, to me, this is one of my favorite looks for just the raggedy, like, ripped up costume.
By the way, this is pretty much, I mean, the movie doesn't get enough credit for cementing in people's minds what Catwoman looks like.
Yeah.
This is the Darwin Cook design that didn't come along until the early 2000s was just this with goggles.
Pretty much you take away the stitching and it's this version also, like the Penguin influenced the animated series version, which influenced the comics, which influenced, like, everything going forward. To the point where it's like, I can't look at the Anne Hathaway version because it doesn't look enough like this version.
God, the ending of this movie is fucking beautiful.
The Elfman score, Batman taking his mask off, holy shit.
I love how the big climactic moment is just a character piece.
Oh yeah, the tragic romance of Batman and Catwoman in this movie is one of my favorite things in a movie. Like, I just love how it's so doomed and so tragic and so dark, and yet is just so in character. Like, it's handled beautifully. Like, way more than you would see for a love story in any other comic book movie, really.
So it's always weirded me out that Batman has to destroy his cowl to take it off. Does he do that every time?
But it looks so cool.
Apart from that one shot where it's clear he's not wearing eye makeup.
Yeah. But I just love that the final basically comes down to Bruce Wayne kind of reconciling with himself what he is, coming understanding with himself, and trying to reach out to Selina Kyle to do the same, which he can't quite handle. That's like the big finale of the movie. It's just characters trying to understand themselves.
She's too emotionally broken to be with him.
This is such a strange finale for a Batman film, but it's beautiful that it's the finale for a Batman film.
It's one of my favorite finales of all time. Actually, no, I take it back. The finale to this movie is my favorite finale in all of cinema.
Because the interesting thing is you would see this kind of finale in a Batman comic, but a movie would never have this kind of thing.
Yeah.
I saw on Tumblr today something from Dark Knight Rises where it's like Tom Hardy talking about the big fight scene with Batman on the steps of City Hall, and where they're both Christian Bale and Tom Hardy are both just exhausted from the experience and them hugging it out because of it. And the best part was it ended with a quote from Tom Hardy saying, like, wouldn't this be the greatest ending to a superhero movie? Villain and the hero get together and just hug it out. Like, it leads to a big fight, and instead of fighting, they just hug. Like, it's alright, man.
That would be better.
Nah.
I came to break you with kindness.
Also, you're looking at my ideal woman right now.
Just insane and ready to kill you.
I've dated most of these women.
Also, I've always been so obsessed with the idea that Catwoman's signature weapon in this movie is a taser.
The world's meanest looking taser.
Again, this old-timey symbol of feminine empowerment. Like, I love what's just a cartoonish parody of all that Catwoman is in this film.
Also,
And
once
then
again,
Max Truck explodes.
this was supposed to be the origin for Two-Face.
They should go in a different direction. One face, where it's just one fucked up scarred face.
Well, they kind of did. I mean,
But, alive.
Burton never got to do a sequel, so we never explicitly know whether he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from the fact that he's not moving or breathing.
I love how the Penguin's death is treated like it's the most tragic, beautiful thing that's ever happened in cinema.
It's that Elfman score.
And once again, makes no sense.
Yeah, that
That is
water's
true, though.
pretty
The Penguin
shallow.
is
He
totally
probably
irredeemably
bled him
It's like
such
someone.
an asshole, but it does feel like such a sad thing.
It's like this was forced upon him.
He never had a chance.
Also, going back to the whole, like, with him without a glove thing, him without a mask is just so weird to see.
God, him turning is the most dramatic goddamn thing in a Batman movie.
But he looks so good turning.
Also, I really wish they kept in the line that Penguin says when he first sees him without the mask. Like, it's cut from the final cut where he says, "You're drop dead gorgeous, so drop dead."
Goodbye, Danny DeVito.
Goodbye. I mean, Danny DeVito's not dead, Cody.
Like,
You can't play the Penguin anymore if you count that as living.
There's an amazing interview with Mike Mignola where he talks about seeing this movie for the first time and just sitting in the theater at this moment saying, "No, no, no, this is not, oh my God, this is the best movie ever."
And then he created Hellboy.
I mean, look at
Penguin
what's
is
happening.
carried out.
The Penguins aren't even touching Danny DeVito. They're just walking next to him, willing him back into the sewer.
It's just so stupid, and I love it.
I do too. It's so dumb. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't look right, but it's fantastic.
Someone on set that day cared that it would look good. Like, no, it's symbolic. It
Also,
doesn't matter.
I have a confession to make. Like, as a kid, I actually used to kind of get emotional whenever Penguin died.
You saw so much of yourself in him.
We're all that disfigured kid who was thrown into the sewer.
I think it was the music that really got to me in that scene where it's like this really tragic overture over that.
I want to die to that music.
And here we go, like the best epilogue ever.
Oh yeah, this specifically is what I meant when I said this is my favorite finale to a movie ever, because these final scenes are just beautiful.
It's almost a little bit of a gut punch, that hope, like, did I see her? Stop the car! And then the mournful, peace to all men.
It's like something, I mean, it's kind of reminiscent of Casablanca in sort of like a tonal way. But it's just kind of old Hollywood in the way it kind of just ends on this somber note.
It really is. It's so quiet and
Understated.
serene. Of course, that glorious final shot.
That was shot at the absolute last minute.
More superhero movies need snow. I think that's all the difference.
I agree.
It's bullshit that we got a Winter Soldier movie without winter.
Agreed. I'm very annoyed by that.
Something so magical about Batman in the snow.
I feel that way about most movies, though. Like a Friday the 13th in the snow. That'd be amazing.
Snow just makes everything better.
You know, because this cat wasn't in Batman Forever, he just got rid of it immediately.
Took it home, decided he didn't want it.
He got into the Bat Cave and fell off one of the cliffs.
Look, Batman would never remember to feed it. Batman would never remember to feed a cat. I don't know if Alfred even likes cats, so I could see this ending poorly. Like, he gets lost in one of the 100 rooms in the mansion and just starves.
Dick was allergic.
And something we didn't touch on at all, just kind of the gender politics of the movie. I mean, that last line really obviously cements that they were thinking about it throughout the film.
Oh, yeah.
There's something we didn't even... Okay, that's fair. But it's like a definitely driving point of the movie, but something we could have maybe talked a little bit more. We're not going to now, though, so think about it on your own, audience.
Get into it, Cody. We still got the credits.
Nah, I got nothing.
You brought us, Cody.
Way to dangle that out and then drop it completely.
This is an interactive experience. We're not just sitting here telling jokes. We're trying to prod the audience, make them have some new thoughts, connections. I believe in you guys at home. Get off your couch. Do some thinking. Change the world, man. Or not. I don't care. That's right. I like that. I'm gonna steal it. It's my own.
Anyway, so final thoughts on Batman Returns.
As controversial as this movie has always been and probably always will be, I will defend it to my last breath as one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite superhero movies, one of my favorite middle fingers to public expectations in the history of art. And I love it.
Hear, hear.
I'm going to play us off. Bum, 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 bum. Diddly, 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 diddly. Anyways, my entire soundtrack will be up on Bandcamp in the next week, so if you want to just send me money, that'd be fantastic.
Send Cody money.
Send Cody money. That's what this whole show's about. Anyways, credits are rolling. I think we've said what we need to say. Thank you very much for joining us. That's going to be a wrap.
Burn, baby, burn.
We played this podcast like a harp from hell.
I think I'll save the next podcast for next Christmas.
You get more out of life when you go out to a movie. Please remember to replace the speaker on the post when you leave the theater.
Merry Christmas, guys. And goodwill toward men and women.
And Cody.
Come what may.
And Quizmotrons.
No. No goodwill towards Quizmotron.
All goodwill towards Quizmotrons, none towards men, some towards women.
What I feel like we need to make a Christmas message for Quizmotron.
It is as cold as my heart. I'm just imagining Quizmotron being really bad at Christmas and misunderstanding how gifts work, so people are just sending him orphans because he demanded it.
Why are people sending him orphans?
Because he demanded it. Like, I don't know. Quizmotron's the one in charge. Quizmotron demands the orphaned children of New York. People just went, I don't want to deal with that. Have the orphans.
That's a good way to get rid of orphans. Feed them to Quizmotron.
I don't think Quizmotron would eat them. No, not right away. He would treat them like Christmas presents.
Feed them to Quizmotron. I don't know what he's doing with them, but...
I like the idea of Quizmotron thinking of orphans as presents, so he treats them exactly like presents, like he shakes them to hear what's inside, and then he rips them open.
They all contain heart.
He stuffs them all in a big sock. which he places over his mantle.
This is horrifying.
And
It's a Quizmotron Christmas.
and that was Bop in a movie for Batman Returns?
Oh god, are we putting all the Quizmotron stuff in? Awesome. Merry Christmas, everybody.
That wasn't a terrible after credit scene for this commentary.
The credits are still running.
I mean, it could be worse.
Good. There's still time. We can make it worse. Don't tempt me.
My nose could be gushing blood.
Good recall. Nice work.
At least somebody got it.
I hate all of you.
Good. Good.
And the recorder is off.
This is Box Office Pulp Guy, and this has been a Pulp Podcast production. Now please, 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 put a gun in my mouth and pull the trigger and say goodnight.
And now, on with the show.
There are a lot of issues that plague the comic book community at large that are really never kind of addressed. I think what the three of us really wanted to do was do a show where we explore all of that.
And by the very hand of Odin himself, we now have the seed of this podcast.
Marvel's Odin.
Does DC have an Odin? They must.
I don't think so. Let's go with, like, Image Odin.
Look, DC has Hercules, so he has to have something.
Who doesn't have Hercules? Spawn?
He has Angela, who's like Lady Hercules.
Yeah, she is kind of Hercules-like. Can we still legally say Spawn has Angela? Have I just gotten us in trouble?
Well, now that she's Asgardian, I think it's fair play, so.
Hey, she's not technically Asgardian.
Yeah, but she's Asgard's assassin.
And she has, like, a weird new haircut. Have you seen Angela's new redesign?
Look, we can get all into the pathos of Angela on another episode.
That was just a little taste of graphic novelism.